Welcome back to the IE427 garage, everybody. Today we're going to talk about tools and proper usage. I was recently watching a YouTube channel, and I was watching the content creator on that channel use a tool in what I would consider the improper way. Now, the way he was using the tool was a way in which it was designed to work. However, the tool, a screwdriver in this case, a multi-use screwdriver, was being used with the straight blade portion of the screwdriver. And I'm going to tell you why that's the wrong way to do it. There are certain pieces of hardware that you can only use a straight blade screwdriver on. And so in those instances, you would obviously be wanting to use the straight blade portion of that screwdriver. However, this multi-function screwdriver actually has what I would consider two hidden uses, and I'm going to show you on the package that I have right here. It only shows this screwdriver as being a 4-in-1 screwdriver, when it's actually a 6-in-1 screwdriver. All right, this is the screwdriver in question. Now, I tried to find the exact screwdriver that this content creator was using in the video because I have one that looks exactly like it. But as luck would have it, I can't find that one screwdriver right now, and so I went upstairs. I usually keep these. These used to be free gifts at Harbor Freight. So if you spent $5, $10, $20, you'd get a free gift. So I would always choose the screwdriver, the flashlight, the gloves, or whatever it was that they were giving out for free. And I just threw them all upstairs. And if I'm ever in a pinch and someone needs a screwdriver, I hand them this and say, keep it. So even on this tool, as you can see, it says that it's a 4-in-1 screwdriver. But what I'm going to show you is that it's not a 4-in-1, it's actually a 6-in-1 screwdriver. So let me unpack this, and we'll see what those other two functions of this are. Let's take a look at these, and you can see that if you look at the bits that are included, you have a straight blade and a number 2 Phillips on one of these. So that's 2 uses. You have a straight blade, a smaller one, and a number 1 Phillips on this. So if you count, you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4-in-1. And that's exactly what it says on here. It says that you've got sizes, Phillips 1 and number 2. You've got slotted 3/16 and 1/4 inch. So you're saying right now, Frank, you're crazy. You just proved that it's only a 4-in-1 screwdriver. It only has 4 uses. Well, I'm going to prove to you that that screwdriver and its design was borrowed, and the people that borrowed it weren't smart enough to know that it has 2 other uses. They borrowed the idea so well, they make it exactly as it was made years ago, as a 6-in-1 screwdriver, and they're selling it as a 4-in-1 screwdriver. And the person that I was watching on YouTube didn't realize that it had these other functions either, and I'm going to show you how he was using it and why he shouldn't have been using it in the straight blade capacity of that screwdriver. So what I want you to pay careful attention to is that the outside hex-shaped portion of this is larger than the outside hex shank portion of the other bit. Now, why would that be? Why wouldn't you make them all the same? If you're only going to have 4 uses for the screwdriver, why on earth would you make them 2 different sizes? If you made them the same size, they could fit in on either end of that tube that they fit in, which is right here. That's this tube right here. But if you look, the end of this side of the tube is larger than this side of the end of the tube. Now, why would they do that? Well, if we take a number 10 and a number 8 hex head sheet metal screw, just as a for instance, you're going to see that the number 8 size fits in one side of that hex and the number 10 fits in the other side of that hex. And then I'll show you again exactly the way that this content creator was using the screwdriver and how I think he should have been using it. Here are a number 8 and a number 10 hex head sheet metal. We call them tech screws, but it's a self-drilling screw. And this hex portion right here is 1/4 inch. So you could put a 1/4 inch socket on that, or you could put a 1/4 inch wrench on that, and it would fit there. This one, the number 10, is a 5/16. So you could put a 5/16 socket on it. You could put a 5/16 wrench on it. However, you could also fit an 8mm socket on this. Essentially, 8mm and 5/16 are the same size. If you didn't know that before, you do now. But let's just take the number 8 right here, the 1/4 inch, and if we put it in the end of this, you will see that it will drive this. I'm holding it in with my finger, but that's the exact size of the hex portion of the end of this tube. And if we do the opposing side for the number 10, again, it fits inside there. So you can see the ring portion of it is flush in there, and it does not spin without spinning the tube itself. So this is operation 5. This is operation number 6. So this is indeed a 6-in-1 screwdriver, not a 4-in-1. So let me put this stuff away. I'm going to show you exactly what this content creator was doing, and again, show you why I think he should have been using it in a different way. This is the way in which that content creator was tightening this clamp. He was doing it just like this, and as you can see, granted my hose is moving because I'm holding it in my hand, but it's much harder to keep that centered on that slot. Now, if it had no hex portion on the outside of it and he was tightening the clamp like that, I probably wouldn't have had an issue. But all he's got to do is pull this out. Now you've exposed the number 10 driver in here. It fits right over the clamp, and now you can tighten that thing down, and it's not coming off. It's not coming off the screwdriver anyway. So you can see, you can also get it tighter without coming off of it and busting your hand. Now, most American-made clamps are still going to have a 5/16 hex on the top of them. Most American-made smaller clamps, if we pull this out, turn this around so it has the 1/4 inch side, you'll see the 1/4 inch side fits on all the smaller clamps. Now, if you're using some of these metric size clamps that you get from the auto parts stores now, all bets are off, because this right here could be a different size. There could be a Phillips on the inside of it that you could use, and it would be less likely to slip. But any American-made clamp is going to have a 5/16 or 1/4 inch to drive. And you're much better off using that than using the slotted portion, because it's more stable. You're going to be able to get the clamp tighter. You're also not going to have the risk of the slotted portion of the screwdriver slipping off and, going into your finger or your hand or your arm, because it's, these are sharp. But so there you go. Now, I'm not picking on the poor guy that was tightening the clamps that way. As a matter of fact, I almost hope that he watches the video. You know, if you're not learning something new every day, you're really not trying. Because there are so many things in life that will be a learning experience. There is no way you can go a day without learning something new. And when I hear someone say, I was a diesel mechanic for 20 years and, you know, and see them tightening a hose clamp like this, I thought to myself, he's got to be kidding. But I've seen him use screwdrivers, just flat screwdrivers in the past, and it wasn't a multi-tool. I couldn't let it pass this time because he was using a screwdriver that would allow him to tighten that thing more safely and actually better than the way he was doing it. He was preparing his boat for summer use because it had been winterized. And so all of the hose clamps had been loosened, all of the hoses had been pulled off of the engine block, and the block was drained of all of its water. When I saw him using the screwdriver in previous videos, it was just a standard screwdriver, and I thought, well, maybe that's the only tool he had handy. If that's the case, then that's fine. But with a multi-tool like this, where you can use it in one of 6 ways, there's no excuse for using the straight blade end of it when you can use the 5/16 socket end of it and do it better, do it safer. I'm going to show you a 10-in-1 tool that I have here from Klein Tools, and very similar to the 6-in-1 that I just showed you. It's just got more functions. The difference with this one is there are multiple hexes in it. So if I pull this completely out, it'll expose these 2 bits, but each of these 2 bits is reversible. So for instance, this is a 3/16 and a number 2 Phillips. The other side is a 1/4 inch and a number 1 Phillips. And then we've got other bits on the other side. We've got some torque bits. So there's a torque bit on this side, and then there's on the other side of that bit, there's a torque bit. Inside here, there is, I believe, some square drive. So that'd be a number 2 square drive, and I believe there's a number 1 square drive inside there. The difference with this one is that this sleeve here on the end, so this sleeve right here, when you remove one of these bits, it becomes a number 8 driver. So that's a number 8 driver inside there. And this is a number 10 driver right here. So you still get those extra 2 functions besides the 8 bits inside of it. Therefore, it's a 10-in-1 tool. And it's here in the shop because I just don't use this out in the field as much as I used to. I just don't run across that many different types of screw types because I'm not doing just electrical work. I did just electrical work for about 25 to 27 years. And then I transitioned over to where I'm not just doing electrical, I'm also doing, you know, carpentry and general contracting. So I just didn't use that one as much out in the field anymore. And so it has found its way back into the shop. If you go to one of our previous videos, I did a bug out bag for your custom car / hot rod. And I put together a tool bag, bug out bag, so when you were on the road, whether it was in your custom car or whether you were traveling, you know, trailering your car like we do, you'd have some of the essential tools that you need. I believe that screwdriver is in that bug out bag for the video. And I do throw it in the bug out bag when we go somewhere. So like on our most recent trip to Oklahoma and Texas, that screwdriver was in my tool bag that I take with me on every trip. I try to organize my tools before I leave, put everything that I think I'm gonna need in that tool bag, put it in the truck or put it in the car so that, you know, if the inevitable happens, that I have some tools to get me out of that situation. So that's a really good tool for that. Actually, the 6-in-1 tool is a really good tool for that as well. If you're just going to put one screwdriver in your bag, your tool bag for a trip, either of those would work really well because 6 functions, 10 functions, you've got just about everything you need screwdriver-wise right there, and you end up with 2 sockets with a hand driver if you need those. So if you have to tighten a hose clamp out in the middle of nowhere, you know, you can use that. I think that's where I'm going to leave this one. If you have questions, go ahead and put them down in the comments. If you're enjoying the content here, please do the like, the share, the subscribe, all that kind of stuff. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.